Welcome to the next episode of Up for Discussion in our new setup. First of all, this is the NRBC Preview for 2023, obviously. And number one, I want to thank the continuing sponsor of the channel in Tricked Out Spook, who provided this lovely backdrop. And I also want to thank behind the scenes, especially in the production stuff. I really want to thank Cam Essick and Jim Essick, Too Tall. They've provided me with a lot of help with marketing in the form of Cam, and a lot of the production aesthetics from Too Tall has been very helpful with his work producing Andrea's podcast. He's helped me out and get me started in this deal. So a big thank you goes out to both of them and everything they've done. On a slightly less positive note, Lisa Petska reached out to me and wanted me to inform everybody about Jeff Petska's celebration of life. It's happening April 29th, the Saturday after the NRBC at the Midway Church in Pilot Point, Texas. The information should be up on the screen right now. And with that, she reached out and was hoping that some people would stop by and be able to share some stories about Jeff and this side of his life from the horse deal. So I believe the invitation's open to anybody, but she asked me to reach out and share it with the horse community. So here we are, and I am much more willing to do that because of the great person Jeff was, and I hope that everybody else agrees. So without further ado, we're going to get into my NRBC preview. I'm going to do this slightly different. I'm not going to make official picks. I'm just going to give you a bunch of people to watch out for. Starting with a person you should always watch out for when she's showing, but this year's a little more exciting for a different reason, is Jordan McBurney. Sweet Dreams is always a good horse to watch, but the reason I put her on the list is she is showing Trashy Little Lady, which is the horse that her husband Sean showed at the Run for the Million last year, and was one of the most dynamic runs that I've ever seen Sean have. So Jordan's success following Sean is very well documented. She's had a very good career following him. I do believe that this could be a very interesting, high-end, high-caliber team, and it could be a great deal. Sean had some bad luck on this mare at Cactus in Scottsdale a couple weeks ago. Did not have the run he wanted to get qualified for the Million. Now Jordan's taking her shot at the mare. It's usually a good thing when they switch back and forth and do things like that. The following person after that I want to talk about is Tom McCutcheon. Tom's got a couple in here, including Gunner's Rockstar, who he qualified for the Million on 2 years ago. But I'm more interested, actually, in him showing Super Mario. He showed him for the first time at Cactus, marked a 25.5 on him, barely missed out on making the Million. Mario's proven to be a really high-level show horse. He's a fraternity champion with Cade, obviously. And now that Tom and Mandy own him, it's interesting watching that pair because Tom has stepped back up almost on a more modern style horse, and it looks incredible with the way that worked. I can see him being in the finals, and with his history of success at the NRBC, although it's not in Katy this year, that will be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. Another guy I want to talk about, and I like to throw him in my videos a lot, and I'm never going to overlook him again, is my buddy Trevor Dare. Trevor just got qualified for his first run for the Million a couple weeks ago at Scottsdale. The horse he qualified on is not the one people were more expecting. It's the Spat Toy Boy Gun, who he is showing in the NRBC, and after running the mark 27 on him and having probably the best run of that horse's life, having that run right now and then coming back immediately for the NRBC, it's interesting to see how that horse will hold up to come back twice in a row. Trevor's such a quiet showman. I don't think he'll get that horse overamped or anything like that, so I expect good things from it. He's also got two other solid contenders, especially Old Time Rock and Roll, who has been a solid citizen since I saw Trevor start showing him as a 3-year-old. The next person, and this is actually one of my picks, not to necessarily win it, but darn should be a dark horse and be right there in the middle, because he's got three of my favorite horses actually in the bunch, and that's Francesco Martinotti. Everybody knows my fanboyness for Smoking Trash. I think the horse is cool as can be. I love that horse. I've seen him make some slight mistakes and still be amazing. I've seen him make amazing runs and still be great. And I think that horse deserves to have a major title at some point in his life. And while I don't know if this is the one because of the amount of horsepower around. It would be cool to see Francesco knock this thing out in his last year. He also has his good Magnum, the Magnum del Cielo. I like that horse a lot too. I don't think it's quite the level of Smoke and Trash or the other one, which is his surprise one from last year, the one he qualified for the million this year on at the shootout last year. Spook's Got a Tinsel, the one that Lance Griffin owns. That horse, or Lance did own him at the time. I don't know if he still does. But this mare is an incredible athlete and showed it last year in Vegas. Francesco fits her to a T. I think it's going to be quite the pair. Next up is Matt Mills, who I even have talked to Matt, and I give him crap. I give him crap on here a lot, but I give him crap for being right there at the edge of that elite level. But he's at that elite level, and I can't make fun of it. Like, Matt is a great showman when he is mounted, and he's coming loaded this year. He's got two that I think are capable if they're prepped right and if everything goes right. The obvious choice of his to be the one to watch out for is Guns and Dynamite. But Stoppin' in Jersey has had a successful show career with two people also, and I think that Matt could easily be in the final on two and maybe all three. After that, we're going to talk about our European import in Gennaro Lendi. He moved to Scottsdale from Italy. He has stepped up, and his first show in the States, he qualified for the million. So we'll highlight that horse. One Mr. JJ had a 228, I believe, or 228.5, something like that. He was very high up in the million qualifier. Gennaro is one of those guys. I've watched enough of his runs in Europe to know how aggressive he can show one and how good he is at being in control while being that aggressive. I'm a big fan of what I see in the show pen from him, and I'm curious to see how it translates continuously. And kind of like Trevor, that one Mr. JJ horse, that's the biggest run I've ever seen that horse have. And 3 weeks later, he's got to come back and show at the NRBC. So we'll move on from Gennaro and go to another import, although this one's from much closer, our French-Canadian friend, Danny Tremblay. So he's got three in this. It's interesting which ones you want to focus on, because Danny's one of those guys, his horses are always going to look good. They're always going to do things big and dynamic, and they're always going to be stylish. The one that is the most interesting to me is the 4-year-old. It's the Assassin. That horse has all of the physical talent in the world, and when his brain is right, he is a threat any pen he walks into to be a winner. That's the big question, though. Does Danny have his brain right? In the first round at the Futurity, he did. And that's where he had that big 226. I could see that happening again, but it's also a young horse in as some trainers call it, the toughest year of their show career, being a 4-year-old having to show up all the way up against 7-year-olds. Next, I want to highlight... I put all the Europeans in a row. I didn't mean to do that. Next, I want to highlight Ruben Van Dorp. Ruben had an unfortunate Scottsdale horse show. He didn't even end up getting to show because Ruben did what every professional and every horseman should do. He put his horse first. Mr. Fahrenheit was not feeling well. Ruben scratched, took care of his horse, and now he's back for the NRBC at 100%. I love this horse. I have since I saw Ruben show him in Denver as a 3-year-old. I loved him when Andreas showed him at the Futurity as a 3-year-old. And I really liked him last year as a 4-year-old. Ruben has a lot of horsepower here, and even though it's his only really big bullet, I think it's definitely a possibility to be a finalist, maybe even up there near the top of the pile. We're going to move on to Trent Harvey. And I know Trent has multiple entries, but the one I want to highlight, because it's the one that crosses well, is That Was Quick, who is out of that Nestle Quick Chick mare by Gonna Trash Ya. That is Trent's bread and butter, is riding a horse like that. I got to speak to Trent for the first time at Scottsdale a little bit when I was at the back gate. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Trent's horses look the part right now. I know he's a hand. I know everything's good. But he has stepped out and stepped up incredibly well. Following Trent, I also want you guys to watch another guy. This one qualified for the million. Jordan Larson. And he's showing two that are well accomplished already. One is the 4-year-old, the mobster that he was second on at the fraternity last year. I want to highlight, though, his Gunner Special Night, I Shine at Night. That's the one that he qualified for the million on at the shootout with the 26. He's probably going to be a finalist on at least one of those two, maybe both. It's going to be an interesting thing watching Jordan. He's always exciting to watch. Another one I like to highlight, and he's a lot of people would say that he should be probably dropped down a little bit because he's not in the Deary program anymore. But Josh Tishman has a horse that is as physically talented as anything in the country, and that's Trendsetter. We all saw him be great as a 3-year-old. We've seen Josh show other people's horses, or horses that other people trained, and keep them going even after it seemed like their careers had peaked. But Josh is an incredible, incredible showman of a horse when he's got one he trusts. I think he can trust Trendsetter. Let's see how that goes, but he's another one to keep your eye on. My last 3 are much more to highlight the person than the horse, but we've got Dan Huss, Martin Muhlstetter, and Casey Hinton. All 3 of them are coming off of qualifying at the million qualifier in Scottsdale. All 3 of them are incredible to watch. Dan and Casey specifically, Casey Hinton specifically, are people I'm incredibly happy for because they're guys who've been in this industry, who've won a ton, who are better trainers than they get credit for because they've never been that top guy, but they're always right there. Those 2 guys need to get their accolades, and they're always fun to watch show horse. Martin Muhlstetter, on the other hand, is getting his accolades quite regularly. And Martin is, in my opinion, one of about the 4 or 5 most exciting guys to watch. Because although I don't put him in my top 6 of there's 6 guys who I think are better trainers and or showmen than everybody else, and they're like my always gonna watch them no matter what they're showing list. Martin's right behind them on that because of his excitement level. If it's going to go well, it's going to be monstrous. That's how Martin is, and he is an incredible showman. He's a really good horse trainer, and I'm saying this and it sounds more like an insult in my own head, but it's meant as a compliment. Martin Muhlstetter walks in that pen, and you have to pay attention because something big is going to happen. It might not be the best thing in the world, but it's going to be exciting, and we need to watch it and pay attention to that. So, before I get into my 6 guys that I have broken down into 2 sets, I'm going to go into a list. This is just a list. I'm not sure about their horses this year, but it's a list of people to always watch out for. Some are young and up and coming. Some are established. Some have been the top trainers for the last few years in NRHA. Obviously, Fernando Salgado is always somebody to watch. Matt Palmer has proven he can win time and time again. He needs the horsepower to do it. I don't know what he's coming loaded with, but I know he's got a set of nice horses in his barn. Casey O'Rourke proved last year that she is a level 4 finalist with her 3-year-old program. Her Derby horses have looked good. Let's see if that trend continues. The legend of Dwayne Latimer continues. He has trained some of the best horses in the industry. He's one of the best mechanics as far as a horse trainer. I think Dwayne is incredible and deserves every accolade he ever gets. Follow that. And everything I said about Martin Muhlstetter also can apply to Brian Bell. Brian likes to go fast. Brian likes to show hard. He's fun to watch, and he's always good for a soundbite or 3. After that, this is where it's going to get a little funny too. Abby Langall is, I can't even call her young and up and coming anymore because she's proven she belongs there, especially with that good 4-year-old that she's got that was 3rd at the fraternity. She's also got the 5-year-old that's a really nice horse. I'm betting Abby is going to be putting on a show at the NRBC. Dakin Allred has got 2 or 3 good horses that I know are capable. I know he's the showman to get there. Cole Price, a former Run for the Million champion. He's won the level 3 at the Derby. I've seen him make some smoking runs, including on horses that other people are showing this year. So let's see how Cole gets along. Arno Honstetter is another one that you always have to watch for. He's always going to come loaded with as good of horses as he can and do that. And my last one to watch out for is Nathan Piper. Now, Nathan is an interesting one this year because it's not Patriot, and that's always the question mark with Nathan is, what is it without Patriot? Well, we're going to see. He's still a hell of a showman. He's still a heck of a trainer. I'd like to see what happens there, but I think Nathan has a shot to be in the finals on something. I'm just not sure what it is. So we're going to move on to my top 6 guys for this deal. And it's an interesting group because there's 3 that are in there for different reasons, and there's 3 that are the top right now. My 3 that are in there, because you have to mention them as this, because 2 of them are all-time greats, and one of them is one of the best gate-to-gate showmen I've ever seen. So I'll start with the gate-to-gate showman, and that's Cade McCutcheon. Cade has 2 horses that I really like that he's showing this year. He's got a third one that's pretty cool too, but the 2 main ones are the Varsity Blue horse, which I said to him at Scottsdale, I didn't know that horse had it in him when he marked 28 on him. And he told me that he always knew it was there, just up to him to get it out. And guess what? He got it out at Scottsdale. Now he's got to come back and show it again. He also has that MMV Voodoo, I'm getting the name wrong, but the Cremello horse. That thing, he did such a good job showing that thing, and those 2 I think could both be finalists this year at the NRBC. They're both that nice of horses. And then for the 2 all-time greats, obviously Sean Flaherty. He's number 2 all-time money earner. He's probably trying to track down Andrea again. He's one of the all-time winningest riders at the NRBC. He's got 2 that are lethal horses, and his third one is pretty solid too. He's coming off of showing at the American is the last place I believe he showed. And Alpha Jack Sparrow's back. Good horse. Didn't have his best showing down there in Arlington, but is a really, really cool horse. He also has All Eyes Adore Her, and I'm forgetting his third horse's name right now off the top of my head. But Sean, it's Sean. Like the only answer you need. It's Sean. He's going to be there in the end with something. He has the momentum still from the fraternity, probably going, even though I don't believe he's showing that mare. But we're looking at one of the all-time greats, so you have to always believe he's going to be there. The other one in this list for me is Craig Schmersel, Mr. Consistency. There is no one that is more consistent in the industry to me than Craig Schmersel. One of the greatest horse trainers of all time because of that consistency level. I don't care about the accolades. I don't care about the money. I don't care it took him 20 years to win the fraternity. He is one of the greatest of all time. He's capable of making that big run just like any of these guys. But even if he doesn't make the 230 run, he will be a 225 and be in the top 5 on 2 horses or be in the top 10 on all 3 because he's that good. Obviously, his big gun in this deal is Setting Off to Town. That is probably his best horse for this deal, and he's likely to be a finalist on all 3 because that's just how Craig is. So I'm going to get into my 3 favorites in terms of... I'll give you my 3 favorites on their horses, but even their backup horses are probably as good as most everybody else's best ones. And I'm going to start with Jason Van Landingham, who of the 3 left, I think he has the weakest set of horses, but his best one is right there, and that's Best Shine. Best Shine, I said it last year on Andrea's podcast previewing the Million. That horse has been so close so many times to winning a major, and maybe this is the time it finally gets to do it because Jason's had that thing tuned, and I've never seen a horse mark a 230 and be disappointed because it wasn't good enough. That horse is incredibly athletic. Jason draws every inch out of him. That is what we want in a show horse. His other horses are excellent as well, but I think that's his best shot to win it this year. My next one is probably the guy who I think has the deepest set of horses, but at the same time, I think there's just something right now. So this is why he's my second choice of the 3 that I'm putting at my favorites, and that's Andrea. And everybody knows I don't bet against Andrea. Andrea is the guy who, there's a reason why he's number 1 all time. There's a reason why I would put him up there with Dwayne and Craig as the best horse trainers I've ever been around. He's showing 3. Obviously, when your lowest ceiling horse of the bunch is Starjack Vintage, who is a high-end top 1% of 1% horse, that's telling you how deep your stock is. Starjack Vintage is an amazing horse that can go win any major and has been close to winning a bunch of them. And yet, he's the least impressive for me of the 3. Because you have Trash Talk and Spook, who as we've all seen in one run, can be as good as any horse in the country. We watched him mark a 234 and be second at the Million last year. He was one missed stop away from winning it outright. If he'd stopped both times, he probably would have set a new record for high score of all time. That horse is an amazing thing, especially in the turnaround where he can plus 1.5 both turns, he can plus 1.5 both circles, and he can win his stops. You're talking about one of the best horses in the country. But I've never seen Andrea get him through a prelims and finals yet. In one go, he's hard to beat. I've never seen him successfully show this horse prelims and finals. Now, maybe Lefty's grown up. We don't know. But that is a big, big ask, and I know I'm getting a little more in depth here. But we're going to get to my favorite horse in the country. And I know this is bias. I know this is what it is. All Bets Are Off is my favorite horse in the country. I think that horse makes everything look easy. And there's a reason why I like him just a tick more than Lefty personally, and this is a total personal opinion thing. All Bets Are Off can go mark a 231 at Reining by the Bay on a run that is just easy. He makes it look so easy to do things that other horses look like they're trying to do. It's similar to Maverick at his best. It's similar to a horse I'm going to talk about in just a second. The only thing about this, and the reason why he's here and not my very, very top prediction, is because All Bets Are Off has only shown indoors successfully since he won the Futurity one time. He was a 27.5 last year at the shootout. When he showed outdoors at Reining by the Bay, he was a 31. I'm curious to see. But Reining by the Bay is a giant pen. Tulsa is a very big pen. I think this pen will fit him. This arena will fit this horse. And I think Andrea has a shot at winning this more than almost anybody else except for one guy. And we're going to get to that guy right now. And that's Casey Deary. Casey Deary has 3 in this deal. And 2 of them look downright amazing, including downright amazing. That is my pick. That is, if you put gun to my head to pick one horse that's the best horse in the country this year, it's downright amazing. Casey is, just like I said about Cade, where Cade is incredible gate to gate as a showman. I think Casey's the same way, but he's that much better of a horse trainer at this moment in my mind. The experience is what a big part of that counts. But downright amazing is, and it's hard because we can compare it directly. Downright Amazing is the next stage of Maverick to me. Like, I know they're not related in that way, like they're not brothers or anything like that, but Maverick was that horse that was so physically ahead of his time and so amazing, and like I said about All Bets Are Off, could make everything look easy. Amazing does that without, he doesn't seem to make the mistakes that would cost Maverick. Maverick would turn a plus 1.5 but have a half point overspin. Maverick would, do things like that were just silly, like the year at the Million when he turned and when he stopped and just caught a front foot because he was stopping so big. Things like that just were bad luck that happened don't seem to happen to Amazing. And his mental maturity is such an incredible thing, because I'm talking about the best of the best horses in the industry, and I'm saying this one might be the best one this year. Like, I love All Bets Are Off, and personally I like him better. But downright amazing, there is something that you have to respect and love about that horse. He does the exact same thing I just said. He makes it look easy. He's just as physical. He is so pleasant to watch. When you look at that horse go around, he looks like he's out for a Sunday stroll, even though he's going Mach 9 around that pen. That's one of the things I love about that horse. And now I'm going to cover the other 2 things about Casey's horses. He's also got a physical freak in 1030 who, when that thing won the Futurity, everybody knew there was just no stopping it. If he got it shown, it worked. Now, that horse is an amazing physical freak. I'm hoping he's a little more mentally mature than he was last year, because as a 4-year-old, I didn't love him as much as I did as a 3. But I am going to say the other one that came out of nowhere for me, even though we've seen him be good, was Living on a Prayer. Casey showed that thing at Scottsdale in the Derby on Friday because he didn't have to show Saturday, and marked a 229.5, and was an incredible run. He had a big overspin and was a 229.5, and was legitimate there. Like, legitimately should have been up there with that score. It was incredible. Casey's showmanship right now might be on another level, and I feel like I'm like sucking up to these guys, and I'm not. I'm telling you what I'm seeing, and those 6 guys that I just talked about last, the Cade, Sean, Craig, Jason, Casey, Andrea. Those 6 guys right now are a level above everybody else. That doesn't mean the other guys can't beat them given the right circumstance, but like we're watching 2 of the all-time greatest showmen, 2 of the all-time greatest horse trainers, and 2 guys who do both of those better than anybody, all at the same time in the same generation. Like, as a spectator, as somebody who watches this, I watch this for a living. I do it for a living, not at this level, but I do it for a living, and it's incredible to watch. It's like watching the NFL after the forward pass was legalized, or NBA after the 3-point shot was legalized. Like, the sport has changed so much in such a short period of time, and we are watching this group of guys be generational talent. And I just listed you off 20 other guys who are that far from joining them in that list, and it's an incredible thing to watch the health of the sport with what these guys are doing nowadays. So my closing thoughts. My 3 horses to watch, obviously, if you can only watch 3 horses, watch Best Shine, watch Trash Talkin' Spook, and watch Downright Amazing. If you have a 4th, throw in All Bets Are Off, and if you have a 5th, throw in Living on a Prayer. Those 5 horses are with 3 guys. But those I don't see, unless all 5 of them make a mistake, I don't see anybody getting around those 5, personally. Now, there are some great horses in there, and there's a lot of money up. The other things I want to throw in there, and let's throw it in there for conversation pieces. In the comments on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever, we're going to have, I want people to start discussing. Mention some other people. Mention some other horses that I'm overlooking. But that group, and I'm not just talking about the 6th, everybody I previewed since I started talking about Jordan McBurney, everybody in this group is lethal, and it's an impressive thing to see, and I'm so excited. How's the move to Tulsa going to change things? It's a big old long pen, maybe not as wide as Katy, but it's probably just as long, maybe longer. I think it's probably a more comfortable facility for everybody to be at. The weather's probably going to be a little better there, and you're a little more indoors, so how is this going to look? I'm interested to see. I do believe, after the 2020 year with COVID, I do believe that it's a good sign that this horse show's there. I think it will grow more. Obviously, the numbers are up. I think everything about this was the right choice to do. I'm interested to see it. I'm excited to see it. And I will see you guys probably on Friday when I release the finals preview, where I'll be a little more in depth with who's there. But for now, thank you, and like, share, comment, subscribe. And here at the end of the video, I will have the information for Jeff Petska's Celebration of Life up on screen one more time, and the information will also be in the description down below the video. So thanks for tuning in, and have fun watching the NRBC.